bear with me for a moment, and here we go. Okay, now I'm here on Instagram on my left, and in front of me, my friends on Facebook and YouTube will be here. So again, I'm Wendy Harrington with Beacon Creative Lab, and this is the second in our Teatime Talk series on authority and how to use authority to help grow your small business. I have got my tea, and after doing a little poll in one of our local business network groups, I see that tea actually is the most popular, beating out coffee by 2 scores, and nobody picking up the beer or wine or anything stronger. Maybe that's because it was at 4 o'clock rather than 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock. But we're going to see if we can't figure out a way to go live in a local business here. We'll see how that works out. But for now, here I am at home at my desk with my dog, and I can hear the kids just got home next door. So if the dog starts barking, you'll know what's going on. But in any case, so I've had a couple of really interesting conversations just this week. It must be, something in the air about authority and credibility, and coming from businesses that have been around for a while. They're not necessarily, in jeopardy of failing, but they've seen that their business is stalled, or that, in one case, maybe that, they're just not seeing the growth that they would like. And, there are, I'm sure, plenty of factors that can contribute to that. But there are a couple of things that we're going to touch on today that will help both new business or existing businesses and new businesses be able to take some actions on authority building, things that you can actually control. Like we mentioned yesterday, there's a lot about growing your authority that is truly out of your control. You can influence it, but you can't go out onto the street corner and say, I'm an expert. You can demonstrate through different ways that you have expertise, but it takes, it's like raising children. It takes a village to raise a company up to expert status, and it can take time. But it's well worth it, because once you have that in place, it's sort of like you've built momentum with the snowball going downhill, right? It's getting bigger and bigger. If you're not careful, it can, hit a tree and smash, and you lose that. So it is something you have to nurture over time. So let's take a look at a couple of things. First, a couple of things that you can do to take control of your authority building. And that is, first, make sure that the credentials that you have are actually visible. This seems like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people don't actually put out in a consistent way, in a strategic way, what it is that makes them have expertise. So if you have certifications, or you have credentials, you have affiliations with important associations, or anything like that, that gives you some level of, or rather gives your audience some level of security that you have the knowledge that is going to be needed to kind of pass through the gateway. In a lot of cases, this is not something that's going to set you apart, but it is something that's going to be like check off the box on that cost of entry thing, that you've got to have this in order to get past the next level. That said, there are plenty of instances, and I'm sure I've done it, you may have done it too, where you decide to do business with somebody and you haven't looked at their reviews. You haven't looked to see if they have the credentials. You have had a conversation, or someone that has passed on a referral that makes you feel so confident you just move forward. The people amongst the audience who are the ones that are real sticklers for detail will go, well, that's just your fault. You should never just go out and do business without making sure that all those T's are crossed and I's dotted. But again, it depends on what the area is that you are, that you're buying in. But it's not it's not necessarily going to be a shoe-in that just because you have a certain amount of experience that you've got the authority that you need. But it definitely is helpful. So sometimes the question then is, well, what do I do with that? Like, do I, go into the networking group and say, hey, I've got an MBA, I've got this, I've got that? No, there are ways to weave some of this information in, the telling stories about clients that you've worked with, or talking about different projects and different challenges that you've overcome, kind of weaving that into the conversation in a way that adds to the conversation, in a way that essentially give them some value, maybe gives them a perspective that they hadn't thought about before. Those are good ways to do it. And of course, to make sure that these things are woven into your bio or your online presence in some way, experience on your website. Those are all good things. So make sure you got those. Your reviews, if you have reviews, as many of the social media experts out there, amongst others, will say, if you have reviews and you want to try to get them as much as you can, make sure that those stars are visible in any of your platforms and places that you're active. Okay, that takes care of the things that you can very literally manually do. Second thing is a little bit tougher for most of us. It is really to be strategic about how people view you. So, there's a lot of debate about whether it is important to niche down or not. I would say that whether you're new or not, what's really important is that the connection you make with your prospect makes them feel like they are your priority. So if you're getting into a new arena, let's say you're starting up a new business, or you've been in business for less than a year or two, it is very helpful to really focus on one area to get known for that. This doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only thing you have to do, but you want this one thing ideally to be the main benefit, the main service that you offer, the main problem that you fix or opportunity that you help people create, because it helps people kind of cement your reputation in place. You think about some of the big companies that have launched years ago, any of the big technology companies or electronics companies, they didn't start with every different category of electronic product. They started with one and then built on that positive reputation as they added other things in. Ideally starting with something that is a logical fit. But just because you're doing multiple things doesn't mean you're less qualified in any one of them, but it helps to get your feet under you and to have people be able to talk about you in a positive way. So, as an example, just even in my business, I have a lot of different things that I've done in my background, pretty much all related to marketing and branding. But when I first started out and I was trying to figure out how I wanted to move forward and where there was an opportunity, I looked at, all of the different aspects of marketing that I could put out there and decided that copywriting was going to be or writing in general was going to be the thing that would be a little bit different than most of the marketing and branding people that I was seeing online. It didn't mean there weren't any, but it certainly was one area that I felt like I could get my foot in and help people to understand a little bit about who I was, just to get to know me. And as I started to get clients and positive feedback, then I was having conversations with my clients about their strategy, or my clients about their website, or about their blogs, or different angles of their work. And that then created a story where they would talk to other people about, oh, well, Wendy also does this. And so through that, then I was able to bring in and get a sense of both what I really wanted the business to be all about, but also to build on the positive feedback I had from other people. In my blog on this topic that I think will probably be in the links, or was on the link from yesterday, I give another example of someone who's in my women's business circle, who I love to death, Cindy Aragon. She's a NC Home Remodeling, also has NC Plumbing and home water heaters. So she has a bunch of different things that their company has developed over the years. But when they started, they focused on water heaters. They got to be the best, just about the best in the state in water heaters. They were the go-to resource for everybody on this side of the East Coast in the North Carolina, Virginia area. Cindy, you can tell me whether I'm misstating, but I'm pretty sure that's the kind of the stretch that you had. But then, if you are working in water heaters, you also, you get kind of involved in plumbing. So plumbing was something that they were easily able to add on, and they built on that reputation later on, adding electrician services and remodeling. So, it's very possible to do that. A company that I was talking to this afternoon actually has many, many different niches. many, many different services, and they're having a little trouble getting traction. So another way that you can look at this is there a place where you, let's say you have the best profit margin? Is there a particular niche that you get the best interactions with? You get the best results from? There's some things that you can do to shape what it is that you are, what message you're putting out there. And when you're putting out your social media, when you're putting out your webinars, when you're, creating some forms of even your paper collateral, brochures and so forth, as much as possible, speaking directly to a particular audience will be very helpful. So let's say, for instance, that you have a business where you are able to serve 3 or 4 different service categories. Like maybe you can serve contractors, and you can also serve lawyers and bookkeepers, right? Let's say that you have a service that can do all of those. You don't have to not serve all of them necessarily if you've been in business for a while and you've got success, but you want to be able to just grow or increase your credibility. What you can do is tailor campaigns using your social media, using your advertising, whatever budget it is that you have, and focus your particular campaigns on their challenges. Sometimes it doesn't even require a complete rethink because the challenge may be the same. You just need to substitute out the audience that you're talking to. So there are some ways that you can tweak this and be able to be very focused, but not, not have to completely reinvent the wheel. For people that want to keep their budget down, that certainly is possible. And then when you drive them to your website or to your landing page, they're already primed to think, oh yeah, they understand my problem. And so you can use imagery and some language to continue to support that idea without having to identify any particular niche. They'll already have the idea that you're talking to them. This has to be handled a little carefully, but it's certainly doable. And, if anybody wants to throw something by me to look at, I'm happy to look at it. So let's see, what else do I want to make sure I covered today? Okay, so for looking at your one area of expertise at a time, here are some things that you can do, actions you can take. First, think about the areas that you most want to focus on. And I would suggest that the best ways to do that is to start off with the areas, the services that are most profitable for you. That's the first one. You want to, obviously highlight those in people's minds. Make sure that they know that those are the ones that you want to work on. They don't need to know that those are your most profitable. Just start really emphasizing those particular challenges and solutions that you offer to the challenges. The next is think about the ones where you actually deliver at the top quality for what you do. If you're the best in your market, obviously, that's a factor as well. But if you are the best of the best there, it's going to be even easier to raise your authority. And so that would be a good one to think about. Another would be, and this is particularly good if it's a one-on-one kind of service, but if something is the particular service that you are the most passionate in delivering, so I'm thinking here of my coaches, massage therapists, or chiropractors, anybody like that. Well, maybe not chiropractors, but in general, people who are delivering that kind of a one-on-one service. If there's something you're really passionate about, that would be one to put up high as well. And once you then are working with a client, you can drill down and explain to them all the other ways that you can help them. But making sure that you have clarity for people in the reputation that you have, and that just helps exponentially in terms of what people will know to be able to say and when they want to support you. So the other thing would to think about, make a list of the 3 ways that you're an expert. How is it that you are perfectly qualified? What are all those pieces? And does anybody else know that besides you? So, this is just something to think about when you're looking at how your overall message is coming across. So after you've got, those pieces in place, now go look at your website, go look at your profiles and social media, take a step back and scan the posts that you've been making recently and see whether the message that's coming across is actually consistent with what you most want to be known for. And that's probably a good place to leave it for today. I would love to hear from you, what your thoughts are. What are the areas that maybe you're struggling with, or the things that you've learned that have worked really well? It's just it's a good process to go through. And the more that you can help people know what to say about you, the easier it's going to be for you to thrive. So we'll leave it there for today. Tomorrow I'll be back with 2 more actions that you can take. And in between now and then, I hope you'll share any comments that you have. And even after that, because I'll be checking back. I work with people this way all the time, one-on-one, and, help them shape their brand strategy. And I'm happy to, work with anybody on that. You just hit me up for one of the free hours, and we'll see what we can figure out for you. Again, it's Wendy Harrington with Beacon Creative Lab, and bye-bye for now.